What's up everybody and welcome back. Today we'll be looking at a Sparking Zero review by Gamology. It was some time around in the video that I realized that this guy is just another perfection. Now I've wanted to put out a video on this earlier, but I wanted to play the game to get my full insight on it first. To keep it short, the game is fantastic and very addictive. That's not to say I haven't had my fair share of issues with it, such as not being a fan of some cutscenes, fights that should be there but aren't. When I play online, my inputs change and I can't use one of my special moves unless I reselect them in the settings beforehand. And my special rush attack doesn't connect when it should.
If you can punch me in the face, I promise I'll take you to that amusement park you're always going on about.
No cap, let's go!
But other than that, the game is pretty solid and I'm having a great time with it. So let's get into it. By the way, we're over 500 subs now. We're really moving. Thank you guys so much. Oh, and one more thing. I know I've been pushing out a lot of content pertaining to Sparking Zero, so I want to make it clear that I'm not a primarily Dragon Ball content creator. I want to keep my videos varied in the gaming spheres in general and not basically typecast myself into only Dragon Ball content. That's not to say I'm gonna stop, just doing more outside of the realm. Alright, now let's get into it.
Can you spot what's wrong with these two Dragon Ball Z games? They show the same scene, Goku and Vegeta battling it out in a Utah-looking desert. It's a classic clash that took DBZ into the modern era. And with the new engine, you can likely pick out which one is the newest game, Sparking Zero. But which one is the second newest? Does the gameplay look different? Faster? Smoother? Tighter? Closer to the source material? Besides the graphics, it's almost impossible to tell. And that's a problem.
Well, that's cap. First of all, with the Xenoverse series, it's a lot faster and gameplay is determined by your stamina conservation. Raging Blast 1 and 2 is slower and took some inspiration from the BT series. And I haven't played Burst Limits, so I can't say much about that except that it's a genre of its own, being a 2.5D fighter like Tekken and Budokai. Secondly, why does it matter? And why is it a problem? They may have the same elements, but they are under the same brand, so of course they will. Also, they are different games in their own genre, so I'm not sure why he even brought up the other one in the first place.
Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is looking to switch up the DBZ Arena Fighter formula, but the truth is, it fails to switch up the formula at all.
When the hell did they say that? I was doing some research and I couldn't find any interviews that even led to that. Besides, why in the world would they switch up the formula? The reason why there is a 17-year gap between the Sparking series is because they felt like they reached the pinnacle of what they were going for in the Dragon Ball game and didn't think of what else to add. Up until a lot of stuff became more advanced and they were able to improve and refine the gameplay elements, which led to the making of Sparking Zero. Ever heard of the saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it?
There have been well over 100 titles in the DBZ franchise, from the sublime to the absurd. But when Dragon Ball started using a boilerplate arena fighter template back in 2002 with the introduction of the Budokai series...
Nigga, what? Budokai is not an arena fighter. That's like saying Tekken is an arena fighter.
The franchise has felt like it's been stuck in a hyperbolic time chamber. With over 20 different DBZ arena fighters released in the past 20 years...
Alright, what in the actual factual fuck is this? There are several games on here that aren't arena fighters. Budokai 1, 2, and 3 aren't it. FighterZ isn't. Burst Limit isn't one. Legends definitely isn't. Super Battle 2, I'm not sure what that is, but I'm willing to bet that it isn't one either. And this man had the audacity, the gumption, the absolute fortitude to put sagas on here. Sagas, bruh? Really? First of all, we ain't even gonna talk about that Teemo-ass Kakarot. Ugh, even saying that makes it feel like a compliment. I just can't forgive the fact that you can unlock Broly in the game, and he can still get washed by Cybermen. Secondly, it is most definitely not an arena fighter. Hell, it's not even an arena fighter. It's more of an action-adventure game. Why is it even here? The one that could be an arena fighter besides BT3 and the Raging Blast games is Xenoverse 1 and 2. Even then, that's debatable. Me personally, I'm of the opinion that it's more of an RPG. Seriously, what is up with this list? Like, nigga, is you sped?
Sparking Zero promises to be more of an exercise in nostalgia than an actual competitive fighting game.
But she's got a new hat.
Dragon Ball fans deserve better.
Bruh, who is you? All I know is that you don't speak for us. In fact, I believe we got better. The game has been doing very well so far, and I'm having a lot of fun playing it. It's very addictive and challenging.
Full disclosure, I've been a huge Dragon Ball fan since I stumbled across it on Spanish access television when I was 10 years old. I love Dragon Ball. Okay, it means more to me than any other animated franchise. I name my cat Piccolo and sometimes dress him up like Lord Beerus.
Why does this feel like the equivalent of I'm not racist, I have black friends argument? Also, you named your cat Piccolo and put Beerus's clothes on him? Why didn't you just call him Beerus? I know it's not related, but it just annoys me.
That's why I need Dragon Ball Z to do better. Looking back on the past is comforting, but we can't live in it forever. We deserve either a transformative leap forward for the series or a sequel to the only transcendent Dragon Ball game over the last decade.
And it was around this part that I started to get the feeling that we have another perfection on our hands. Cause how are you gonna fault Sparking Zero for not doing anything new, which isn't even true in the first place, but bring in FighterZ as a prime example? Don't get me wrong, I love FighterZ back when I used to play it, but that game didn't really do much of anything new to the 2D fighting scene. So why bring it up? Cause that's what he wanted, a sequel to FighterZ, and he feels jaded because we got a Sparking sequel.
I've played Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, and unfortunately, my fears were confirmed. I've played Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Now, the Sparking Zero graphics are the best they've ever been, and I applaud them for having destructible environments and trees that sway when hit with ki power, but graphics alone do not make a game. When you dissect a match, it's much slower than it looks. Real impact and damage is far apart.
Alright bruh, next time when you want to demonstrate how slow the game looks and plays, use the current build of the game instead of the demo released months prior, because it has underwent a lot of changes and improvements since then. It looks and feels faster than what you are showing. Even then in the footage, it's still pretty fast, so I'm not what he's on.
And it doesn't have the back and forth, keep them guessing momentum battles of top fighting games.
Maybe not, but it does have key elements which you can keep your opponent guessing. Like when you throw hands, you can give directional and button inputs to trip them up into moving their guard. I personally always go for the trip because there are new people getting into the game and 9 times out of 10, they don't realize you can block below.
We're seeing stagnation in the gameplay sphere, where Sparking Zero is extremely similar to the last several dozen Dragon Ball arena fighters. It feels more like the return of the EA Sports College Football franchise than a new spin on Dragon Ball.
Alright, you ain't gonna disrespect this game by comparing it to that shadow clone of a series. Gonna have to see you in the streets, my guy. Shit ain't sweet out here.
Updated graphics with familiar controls. And I need to talk about those controls, because if you've ever wondered what it's like to be one of the Z fighters, turn elsewhere, because the controls are not great.
Well, I guess that's subjective if you don't like them, but I haven't had any issues with the controls since I played BT3. Even more so of the BT4 mod, which the combos are very similar. Granted, there are more stuff you can do in the game which complicates things, but once you spend some time and practice with it, you'll get used to it.
Dragon Ball is at its best when it delivers on fighting and yelling, and Sparking Zero does have a dedicated yell button. Yelling makes your special bar max out, and then you can pull off bigger moves and Kamehamehas. But it comes at the cost of pacing. Powering up freezes you in place while your special bar fills up, leaving you vulnerable to attack. Sure, that's part of DBZ, but it still makes the game feel clunky.
Is this nigga serious?
And here's why. It's because the controls are too complex for casuals, but not technical enough for hardcore gamers.
Okay, what? Are you dead ass right now? Key charging is and has always been a part of Dragon Ball games, including that game you love so much. And if you don't like it, don't use it or use an Android. Not only that, every fighting game comes at a cost of pacing. Because if we didn't have pacing, then we would have people exploiting that and keep spamming over and over again. We call that cheese, my guy. And like every black brother and sister, we lactose intolerant over here. Sorry, that was trash. Sorry. Bro, what on earth are you trying to say? It's too complex for casuals but not technical enough for hardcore gamers? That shit don't make any sense. Besides, I played BT3 when I was a kid and I had no issues playing with it. If you have some problems with the controls, then I have only one thing to tell you.
It's been 20 years since Dragon Ball Budokai 1, and transitioning from ground to air combat is still awkward.
Okay, besides the fact that you're bringing in Budokai as an example, a game that doesn't even have a dedicated flight button, which is wild, to fly is literally just one button. And if you have that Hall of Fame chase down badge, you can press X after knocking your opponent away from you to hawk his ass down to continue your string of hands.
Locking on doesn't feel right. Ascending and descending could be streamlined, and it's not always clear if you whiffed a beam because of something you did, or if you just weren't on the right plane.
Well, here's some sage advice. If you want to hit someone and see if it actually hit, make sure there's nothing in your way, or just, look at their health bar.
You might even find yourself fighting underwater, but doesn't slow you down or change anything at all. It just puts on a slightly different filter.
Whew, boy, alright. So what the water does is slow down your ki charge. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's fucking stupid. Why in the world would the devs put that in the game? Well, here's why.
This is the best idea I've ever had. Go, my children.
What? That's just distracting. And that's just annoyingly distracting.
About time someone kicked you to the curb. Nice work, Brain.
You're welcome.
The best fighting games, like Street Fighter, Tekken, and Under Night Inbirth, feel like you're mimicking character motion, gathering power, and pushing a button to release it. There's an emphasis on frame advantage, timing, and spacing that can mean the difference between victory and defeat. It becomes more of a dance at a higher level.
Alright, you're bringing these games up like they convey a point, but all it does is confirm to me that you just love 2D fighters. You complain about the movement in the game and compare it to different ones that are in a genre of their own. It's the epitome of comparing apples to oranges. They are 2 to 2.5D games. Sparking Zero is a 3D fighting game. Therefore, it'll control differently, and Sparking Zero controls just fine.
There's a huge roster. Unfortunately, there's almost no character differentiation. A lot of the characters share animations and combos. Functionally, there are probably closer to a dozen or so character types, and that's being generous.
Huh?
With 182 slots, who's champing at the bit to play characters like Nail and Kakunsa? If they're gonna go all out, I want some crazy characters. Bulma in a robot, Taco's shirt Krillin, World Tournament announcer, Farmer with a shotgun. Pay tribute to Toriyama by having one of his self-inserts be playable.
What in God's... Oh, okay. Farmer with a shotgun and Toribot, I can get behind, but the rest?
Fuck no, baby!
There's an aspect of power scaling in Sparking Zero that's supposed to reflect the show's lore. Someone like Super Saiyan Blue Goku hits several times harder than Yamcha, which he well should, but that's a poor substitute for balance.
Yeah, this nigga is spent. Cause how are you gonna review a game and complain about it not being balanced when said game is the newest entry in a series known for being unbalanced? It's done intentionally. They even said as much in the interviews. I better not hear any new niggas online crying for balance patches, cause either hop out of the kitchen or get in there and cook.
But exploring a bunch of different martial arts styles, whether it's MMA or drunken boxing, brings life into fighting games. Street Fighter 6 launched with 18 characters. For the most part, they played differently and oozed with unique styles. Grapplers, rushdown characters, zone types, stance types, and a bunch more.
I'm actually gonna start tweaking if he uses 2D fighters to make his points again.
Retold the Z story, but had Goku punching wolves. Kakarot retold the Z story in its entirety. Xenoverse retold the story with some what-if and time travel elements and included a somewhat lacking create a character. Sparking Zero also has a story mode, but it'll be thin because we've seen it before. Where are the well-thought-out stories that challenge the player's perceptions rather than regurgitate it?
Okay, bro, you've said that you played the game.
I've played Dragon Ball Sparking Zero.
So I'm more than comfortable with saying that you're just straight up lying. Cause if you are familiar with this game as much as you say you are, then you would be familiar with the what if aspect of the game that explores different routes based on the choices you make and how you play in a fight. Hell, I've been doing that myself. Just got done with Vegeta's what if storyline ending with him doing a father-son final flash against Cell.
Where's the story of Dragon Ball pre-Z? How far will we get in the manga? Will we get manga-only characters like Moro?
Okay, I'm not gonna get that into this, but all I have to say is that it's very unlikely that'll happen, and those who are familiar know why. For those who don't, the anime and manga of Dragon Ball are owned by Toei, and the manga is owned by Shueisha. And if we want some manga elements in the game, then they will need to settle some shit, which is unlikely, but a boy can dream. They even put one of Goku Black's moves that he did exclusively in the manga in the game.
Why not play through some of the less loved but still incredible movies like Super Android 13, or have Janemba's Hell as a stage? What about a baseball mode? There's so much ancillary content in the Dragon Ball world that is ripe for an adaptation that unfortunately will be left out for the greatest hits.
Okay, I'll agree with a couple of stuff he says here, cause this is the first Dragon Ball game I've ever played with no hell stage in it, and a little baseball mode would be a nice goofy game mode. But all this stuff is what we would wish for in this game, and not exactly a critique of what's already there. Bro, you have to keep in mind that what they are trying to do is make a fighting game on a set budget in a certain amount of time. If they want to add these things, cool, but you have to realize that these things are not their priority at the moment. I ain't gonna lie, there are some things missing in the game, but I'm not gonna go there in this video.
And it could be a better love letter and feel like less of a money grab if they were acknowledged. Instead, we just get Frieza blowing up Krillin for the millionth time. In my opinion, Dragon Ball FighterZ is a much better use of the license and still has a robust, dedicated fan base after 6 years.
Here we go.
Ultimately, a sequel to that series would be a better overall direction for the franchise. It's had just one main release and a handful of DLC over the last 6 years, and is a fresh take on the series, which is weird considering it's a 2D fighter. It's fast-paced and competitive, so much so that it had a presence at the EVO tournament for 5 of the last 6 years. There are 44 characters, and for the most part, they play differently and include some fighting game archetypes that aren't present in arena fighters. It's relatively balanced with only a few insanely OP characters, but they literally just released a patch for that, and the graphics are still gorgeous. It needs more stages, and the menus are clunky. That's true for most Dragon Ball games.
What did I tell ya? He had no reason to bring this up, yet here he is giving a sales pitch for a sequel. Not only that, he was giving the game a pass for the same criticisms he gave Sparking Zero, cause it's true for most Dragon Ball games. Like bro, make up your damn mind. Again, all respect to fighters and would like to see a sequel to it, but whether we get it anytime soon or not is to be determined.
The games industry has a bad habit of releasing rinse and repeat sequels, and we tend to reward it by buying every new sports game or Call of Duty year after year. At least COD has a different story every time, but Dragon Ball still retreads familiar ground. Wanna see Goku sacrifice via special beam cannon in the Saiyan saga? Here it is, but you can switch to a first-person camera this time. Ultimately, Dragon Ball needs something more artful in execution. Whatever the Dragon Ball equivalent to Slow Clap's 2021 game Sifu, a 2D, 3D phase-shifting game like Pokken Tournament, or maybe something tight and technical with balanced, ranged, and melee combat. Tight and technical with balanced, ranged, and melee combat. Like Armored Core 6. According to Bandai sales data, the Dragon Ball franchise has experienced diminishing returns since 2020. It requires innovation if it's going to continue at this clip. So why go back to the well for another nostalgia fest? Being the official Tenkaichi 4 could be the kick in the pants the franchise needs, but I think a new, exciting direction is the way to go. This game will no doubt sell millions on name recognition alone. but I think its impact will quickly fade.
You definitely do not know what you are talking about. BT3 came out 17 years ago and is to this day still hailed as the Dragon Ball game. It even still has people playing this game and making mods for it. Not only that, there has been so much growing and constant hype for this game because it's a sequel to this beloved game series. So much so that when pre-orders opened up, over time it topped the charts for top sellers, which I believe is the first for an anime game.
I don't think we'll talk about it the same way years after release. I hope I'm proven wrong though. A lot of people look back fondly and call Tenkaichi 3 a high watermark. And they deserve to be happy too. One of my friends is really excited about this game and couldn't give a flying nimbus about the game style being played out.
After hearing all you had to say, I do not blame him in the least.
I hope DBZ Sparking Zero is more than the same thing in prettier packaging. I hope it outdoes itself and is more fun than I got from the matches I played. Maybe it'll exceed expectations, but mine are very tempered. In the meantime, I'll be hoping for a better use of the license. Just saying.
Yeah, guys, I think he probably wants a FighterZ too. Anyway, that's all on this fool. This video was pretty much a plea for a FighterZ sequel with a tinge of salt because he didn't get it. This man really is another perfection, or at least a spawn of him. Can't really tell who's worse, the guy who shits on the game that he hasn't played and makes baseless claims about it out of pure narcissism and glaze for a Xenoverse 2, or the guy who has a hard-on for fighters and 2D fighting games in general and shits on the game and makes false claims out of spite despite the fact that he has played it. Nah, I take it back, Mr. PS4 over here is worse. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I've been really enjoying Sparking Zero despite the issues I found playing it. Actually just got done playing through Goku and Vegeta stories, what ifs and all. Hope you all have a good one, and peace.
Baby, let me see some. Okay, too bad. Bitches, going both ways.